Back live with Andrew Bolt with the Bolt Report.
As I said last night, a federal court judge yesterday ruled that James Cook University had wrongly sacked an academic. Now, that academic was Professor Peter Ridd, who's a Great Barrier Reef expert who'd questioned claims by colleagues that the reef was being destroyed by global warming. Let me remind you again of what he said, in fact, here on Sky.
We can no longer trust the scientific organisations like the Australian Institute of Marine Science, even things like the ARC Centre of Excellence for Coral Reef Studies. A lot of this stuff is coming out, which the science is coming out not properly checked, tested or replicated. And this is a great shame because we really need to be able to trust our scientific institutions.
Joining me is Dr. Peter Ridd. Peter, congratulations. The federal court has said that James Cook University acted unlawfully when it gagged you and sacked you. Do you feel vindicated?
Yes, the university was guilty of 7 counts of unlawful behaviour, I guess. So, yes, I do feel a bit vindicated.
At what point were you making with your criticisms of your colleagues?
Well, I'm essentially saying that because there's not enough quality assurance, that the science isn't being checked, we can't actually tell whether stuff is right or wrong. When I've done a lot of checking of some of the Great Barrier Reef science, I find a lot of it is wrong. And in fact, when you look at many other areas of science, they are regularly finding that around half the published literature has serious flaws. It's a thing called the replication crisis. It's well known in science, and I'm just saying maybe we should check some of this Great Barrier Reef science a little bit better than we do now.
And part of that problem is, of course, that with the peer review system, isn't it, where someone says it's peer-reviewed, so other experts agree, but the peers that are chosen for review often happen to be people who share that same sort of, have a vested interest in that particular theory and do not perhaps question it like, I don't know, like you might.
No, that's one of the problems, but there are many other problems that to really do a review properly, sometimes you have to repeat the experiment, actually go out to the ocean or whatever and do it again and see whether you get the same answer. Science is about you should be able to do the same thing again and again and again and get the same answer, or lots of different methods of coming up with the same answer. That is proper review rather than peer review, which is really just, frankly, as I said, in that interview that got me into trouble, later on I said that peer review is a joke, and it is. It's not proper quality assurance.
OK, so here you are, you're raising important concerns about an issue that federal government and state government, well, they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on, whether the global warming is indeed threatening the reef with doom. What effort did the university make to check whether, in fact, you were right, that the claims of the Great Barrier Reef dying were exaggerated?
Well, the judge made a point about this, that they, I forget his exact words, they left no stone unturned, I think is what he said, trying to find dirt on me, to discipline me, but they never bothered to check whether some of my claims about quality assurance were wrong. And since then, there's been this scandal about, it's the lionfish scandal, where it looks like a lot more of this work is completely wrong and, in fact, possibly fabricated. And even though the university was told about it, they did nothing for well over a year until we actually started to push them to do it. So, no, they're not interested in actually making the science better. They're just interested in silencing the people who are saying, hey, guys, we've got a problem here. It's affecting every major industry in North Queensland. Why shouldn't we check it a bit more?
Now, talking about alarmists, Professor Irv Goldberg of Queensland University, I once debated him on the ABC about a number of his previous predictions that the reef was doomed, etc., and every time there was a bleaching event, the reef seemed to grow back and make his very fast, much faster than he thought. Now, here he is on the ABC today, worried that this verdict in your favour may make more people doubt people, I guess, like him, and doubt their warnings. Here he is.
Climate change hasn't gone away, and it really is a major threat to places like the Great Barrier Reef and Australia in general. We lost 50% of the reef's shallow water corals in the last 4 years.
OK, Peter, 50% of shallow reef coral dead in 4 years sounds very alarming to me. Is that another claim we should question, or is it a sign that you are?
It's a beautiful example of how, you know, damn lies and statistics. When he talks about shallow water corals, he's talking about the coral between the surface and 2 metres below the surface, right? And it's not 50%, it might be 30%. But the coral goes down to about 50 metres. And Ove himself has done the studies of the deep water coral, and the deep water coral was far less affected. So at the very most, perhaps, if you stretched all the numbers, maybe 8% of the reef declined. Now, that still sounds like a lot, but when you consider that for the southern Great Barrier Reef, between 2011 and 2016, there was a 250% increase in the amount of coral. A cyclone went through, wiped out all the coral. By 2016, a 250% increase in coral. So, you know, an 8% decrease is, well, you know, it's not good, but it grows back. So that is one of many, many examples of scientists using bad statistics. I'll give you another one if you like. I can give you dozens. We can be here all night. They talk about sediment from farms killing the inshore reefs. Sounds terrible, doesn't it? The inshore reefs. Maybe the inshore reefs are half the coral? No. The inshore reefs are at most 1% of the reef. The offshore reefs, which is 99% of the reef, you're flat out finding a single grain of sediment from the land there. That's how little sediment gets out there. And even the inshore reefs are actually, our work has shown, are barely affected by runoff from the land. So no, you can't believe these people. Their work is unchecked, they are unchallenged, and people should be rightly very sceptical, not just of the climate change stuff. There's much, much worse stuff about the effect of farming on the reef than on the climate change on the reef.
Well, listen, I'll ask Ove Houle-Guldberg to come on the show and debate this, give him his say. He's welcome to take up the offer. Finally, I've seen that you wanted to have your job back now that you won the case. How's that going to work? You're going to bump into these colleagues in the corridors, Peter.
No, the corridors are the colleagues are fine. The colleagues, even my most strident enemies, we actually get on. Even with Ove, right? Ove, we've had quite a nice email exchange just recently. The problem is with the Vice-Chancellor. And the Vice-Chancellor has said that the judge got it wrong. All these 17 counts where the university was unlawful, the Vice-Chancellor is saying, no, the judge got it wrong. And that is a problem. And what I'm saying now is that the University Council has got to deal with the Vice-Chancellor. All the disgusting things that are happening. When I was told I wasn't allowed to speak to my wife about the allegations they made, the search of dirt through the email where they actually found nothing, the no satire direction where I wasn't allowed to say for your amusement in an email, and that was satire. So at James Cook University, you are not allowed to satire the disciplinary process. You get serious misconduct for that, and you can be fired for that. All these quite disgusting things that happened at the university are, and I hate to sound bitter because I'm not bitter. I love my university and I don't want it to be damaged. But the Vice-Chancellor has brought the university into disrepute, and something needs to be done about it.
Oh, golly, well, now I'm going to have to ask her to come on the show too to put her case as well. So there's an open invitation. Come one, come all. Peter Ridd, let me congratulate you again. I think it was a very, very important fight, and I'm so glad that you won it. Thank you so much indeed for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.